There are two ways to sell properties in the land business. You can sell for cash or you can sell on terms. Cash is pretty straightforward. You buy low, sell high, and pocket the difference. Terms deals, also known as owner financing, is a great way to build an income stream that can provide financial security and long-term wealth. But are terms deals always good? In this episode of the Land.MBA podcast, Dave and I are going to go deep on the good, the bad, and the ugly of seller financing.
Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast, where we go deep into the business of land investing.
All right, welcome to the Land.MBA podcast. We are going to deal with a topic that I think everybody cares about, loves, and wants to really understand at a deeper level. And that is owner financing when you sell properties. Dave, you don't do that, right?
No, never.
We all do it. We love it. But we don't always do it because there's two ways to sell properties. You can sell it for cash, buy it low, sell it high, and collect the difference. Or you can sell it on terms. Terms is a bit more complicated. You don't get your money up front. It may take a while to get to a point where it's not going to give you the capital right back to reinvest, but there are long-term benefits to doing this and potential risks. And that's what we really want to cover in this episode today. The good, the bad, and the ugly of owner-financed selling. So, Dave, you've done a couple of these, right? Maybe one or two?
Yeah, maybe one or two. I don't know. I think I've got about 50 or 60 of them in my portfolio. And I love seller financing. I mean, like you said, sometimes your capital doesn't come back right away, but sometimes you get it out on the down. It really depends on what what you paid for the property and how much you can get down out of your buyer. I love the cash flow that it provides, the passive income that it provides. For people that want to get out of the rat race and get out of their job, in my opinion, seller financing is the way to go because now you many times have to build up to that, right? Because you only have so much money. You run out of money.
Did you do more terms or more cash when you first started?
I did about 50-50. So I was, and I like that mix. And, that might be 60-40, 70-30. Sometimes you can't always control the market and what buyers want to do. But the profitability on terms deal is so good. But I did both. And I set a goal when I started, and that was, I want to have enough cash flow to cover my costs, to cover my VAs, to cover some of these subscriptions that you need to have, the software subscriptions and ongoing expenses, just to run the business. And then my next step was I wanted to not have to pull out of pocket to do mailing campaigns. I wanted my cash flow to be able to pay for that. So I got it to a point where I was still working a job, and I got my cash flow to a point where it was paying the overhead, but not yet paying me. So I still had to, keep my job. And then, a cash chunk here and there, that keeps your investable capital up there. So you can keep buying and selling. And meanwhile, there's a terms deal. Oh, there's a cash deal. There's a couple of terms deals. Just yesterday, or the other Tuesday, we had a really nice sales day. We sold about 5 properties, and we sold 1 on cash and 4 on terms. But the beauty of it was the cash was a decent chunk, and all 4 of those deals, we got the capital out on the down payment. So that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it takes 10, 12 months to get all your capital out. I think it's a great idea to have both because it gives me security, stability. now I've been able to quit my job and I have enough cash flow that if I don't sell one property for cash this month, I'm not living high on the hog, but I'm paying my bills. And so that gives me the freedom to go out and work on other deals if I want to, like bigger deals. If I want to work on a apartment project or a house project or a land syndication project, and because you can spend a lot of time on these bigger deals and then nothing happens, you don't even get the deal. So that's the hard part when you're working or when you don't have enough cash flow and you have to keep hustling. It frees your time having this cash flow.
Absolutely. I talk to so many people that are established land investors, but also a lot of people that are just coming into the business. And I oftentimes, especially people coming into the business, they come into this and they say, I want to sell just in cash, or I want to sell just on terms, or they have a very, or they ask, what is the right mix that they should have? If somebody was to ask you, coming into the business, having no experience, Dave, and they say, what is the right mix of cash to owner finance deals? What would your answer be?
It's not a straightforward answer because it depends where they're coming from. If they're at a point where they don't have very much money, then they need to build some capital up. Although you're able to, these days there's a lot more people, private lenders who are partnering on land that didn't exist when I came into the business. I would say, look, personally for me, I like the 50-50 target. You can't control the market. So, maybe it ends up at 70-30 or 60-40, like I said before. I like that, but I had a little bit of money to start with. And if somebody's coming in with very, very little money, and this business requires very little money to get started, then I would focus on cash deals and focus on using a money partner, and you do a little bit bigger deals so that instead of coming in and buying these little cheap, buy for $500 and sell for $2,000, buy something for 10,000, sell it for 20 to 25 and split that with your money partner. Now you're making $5,000 to $7,000, $10,000 chunks and build a little bit of steam up. And then you can migrate your model into maybe going for more terms oriented, a little bit less expensive properties.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It really depends on a person's situation. Across the board, the generalized model for the average investor, I find, is you come in and it's like an 80-20 split, 80% cash, 20% deals. Then you start building up some deal flow. You've generated some capital for investment. And then you're starting to make this migration towards more of a 60-40 or a 50-50. And then in the end, when you've got enough notes that you can actually cover your monthly nut, then you're kind of targeting more like an 80-20 split, 80% terms, 20% cash. Everybody's situation is different. But I think that one of the things that new people coming into the business don't always get is that it's not necessarily our call. When you go to sell the property and the opportunity is there and somebody says, well, I can't do this in cash. Can you finance it for me? You're going to make a decision, say, yeah, okay, I can do that because I want to sell the property and it's a good deal. So a lot of times or it just happens that you may be in a county that's more competitive and everybody else is offering owner financing. In order to be able to move the properties at the speed at which you want to do it, you have to offer owner financing.
Right. And that's a great point. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I didn't want to lose the thought. That's a great point because if you're, and that comes down to your area and county research before you send out your marketing campaigns. If you're looking to do cash only and, you've done your research properly and you see that, okay, that's a fairly competitive county. Doesn't mean I can't get deals there. But if it's primarily stuff that's going to be sold on seller financing and you don't want to be doing seller financing, then you should be fishing in a different pond.
Absolutely. And I'm probably getting a little bit off topic here, But I think your point is spot on. And that is, when you're doing the county research, you figure out what your strategy is and what you want to do, and make sure that you're going into a county that matches your strategy. One strategy might say, I want to do cash. Well, if you're doing cash, you need to be in a less competitive county in general. More competitive counties will require more terms deals. The second thing is if you want to, let's just say there are models out there that say I don't want on my purchase agreement or in my letter, I don't want to say we'll close in 30 days. I want to say we'll close in 180 days so that I can pre-market the property and double close it. Again, you can't do that in an extremely competitive county where everybody else is offering 30 days, put cash in your pocket. So,
or less.
What's that?
Or less. If it's cheaper properties, we're, offering, where we're just going to self-close, we'll close in a couple of days, right?
Absolutely. So depending upon what your goal is, cash or terms, really requires you to do the right kind of county analysis. County analysis is not, hey, go look where everybody else is investing and go there. That is not county analysis. That's follow what everybody else is doing. You will get, chances are if everybody else is there, it's a good county for land. You'll probably get some deals out of it. You're not going to get rich because it's extremely competitive. You'll learn the system, you'll learn, the land business, but you're not going to get rich, and you're not necessarily going to follow your strategy because you're following their strategy. Because the first big thing in the land business is picking counties. So you have to have a very good methodology for choosing counties that will actually deliver on the strategic goals that you have in your business. So that's really important.
Absolutely. And not just selecting counties though, also, because you can take that county and slice it up and go for different price points and different types of properties within that same competitive county that will fit your model. So there's a whole other slice to take at it.
On the county, so I would tell people all the time, it's like, you can go to counties in Florida and there are more vacant land properties in one subdivision than there are in entire counties out west. Mm-hmm. Means that you can really pick and choose the features that you want based on your strategy on a subdivision basis. A little harder to do out west, in certain counties that are sparser and more, a little bit more homogenous relative to someplace like Florida. Right. All right, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so the good. So why should people be excited about this, Dave? What is the good? Why? I mean, you've hit on a couple of key points here, but let's go into a little bit more depth and really spell it out. What is the good of seller financing?
Well, look, first of all, in seller financing, the margins are sick. I see, first of all, there are, many times it depends on the price point. You got to look at what the market will bear. However, many times my price on a terms deal is double or at least 70, 80% higher than on a cash deal. So when I'm buying a property, I base my offer price on what I think I can get cash for it and a little bit under that. But I turn around and do a seller financing. I price it much, much higher, as high as double. Now, I don't position it that way when I sell it. I position it such that we provide seller financing based on the retail price. If you want seller financing and you're putting the basic bare bones down payment down, then you get you're paying the retail price, and we give a large incentive for cash discount. So that's how we position it. But so typically, a cash deal, we're typically doubling our money. Occasionally, it's a triple your money, and sometimes higher. Especially the lower you go down in price point, those multiples increase, but it's a smaller spread. But when we go terms and you've got, for example, property that you might pay. I averaged my first 100 deals. I need to go back and average the last 100, but my first 100 deals, I think my average purchase price was $4,700. And when I sold for cash, my average sale price was 12 and a half grand. So not quite 3X, but almost. And then, but on the sales side, the average was, I think, 19 grand. So quite a much bigger margin. But so I might get $2,000 down on something like that. And so it takes a few months to get your capital back out. But now you're sitting there with a note and somebody paying you monthly mailbox money for several years. And so that's what I love about it. It also can speed up your sales cycle, makes it easier to sell properties.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable, scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba, coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your JOB and hello to financial freedom. Before we get into the rest of the good, I just want to stop here for a second because what you just said is profound. And, on the Land.MBA podcast, we provide real value. We seek to inform. This is not just, we tout ourselves as not just being the newbie advice, but really gives people something that they can take to the bank and put into their business and make a difference in their income stream. And what you just said is profound because the majority, from what I've seen, the majority of land investors price the property and it's the same price for cash or terms. Yeah. Now, if you sell it on terms, there may be interest over time, which basically increases the ROI of the deal. And that's how they're improving the ROI of the deal. But you're actually differentiating the purchase price in a cash versus a terms transaction. And the way that you communicate that ties into buyer psychology. And I think in a previous podcast, we may have talked about anchor pricing, but anchor pricing is absolutely a critical to understand in the sales process because if I say, let me just give you a real quick, simple example. I always call this the car wash example. So you pull up to the car wash and they've got 3 different offers across the top, and then they've got a list of features down the side. And the first one says $895 price, and you get, you get an exterior wash and, maybe a couple other features. It's like 3 features. And then you've got the middle offer, which is $1995. And it's got like a list of 10 to 12 features that you're going to get. We're going to vacuum the inside. We're going to armor all your dashboard. We're going to, armor all your tires, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got the VIP. And the VIP has maybe 13 items, not a whole lot more than the middle, right? Just a few extra features. but those features would be considered enough value to justify the $27.95 price tag, right?
Right.
What happens psychologically is when we go to the car wash, naturally that board naturally drives us to the middle offer. Most people, when presented with three options like this, will go to the middle offer. They can say, wow, I can see that I'm getting substantially more value in the middle offer than I'm getting in the low offer to justify that price. But when I look at the VIP offer, I'm actually only getting about 3 extra features and I'm paying a lot more money. I don't really feel like paying that much money. I'll go with the middle offer. And so what ends up, now imagine if you went to the car wash and that VIP offer didn't exist. Now it's just the low offer and the middle offer. I can do $8.95 for the exterior wash and a few little things, or I can do the middle offer for $19.95, which is, more than double. Now my anchor price is the low offer, and I'm saying I don't want to pay twice as much. I could live with an exterior wash. It's only when we put that VIP option out there that it drives us to the middle, because now instead of comparing to the low option, we're comparing to the high option. And all of a sudden, $19.95 looks like a great deal.
Right.
And so anchor pricing is critical in the way people perceive opportunities. And so when you come in there and you say, my price, the price of the property is $19,000, and we can owner finance that, but we also offer steep discounts if you want to pay in cash. Good for us, good for you. And all of a sudden they're looking at that, and now what you've essentially done is you've said the price of this property is $19,000, or I a steal of a deal for $14,000, even though when you priced it, $14,000 was actually the right price for the property.
Right. Well, let me add something to that too. The reason my average is 19, because a lot of times those prices are 24, 25,000 for the same purchase price, right? But my average is lower because that middle pricing, and actually you just gave me a marketing idea, but we'll save that for another podcast. But what I do many times when I'm negotiating with my buyers, they'll be like, gosh, I don't want to pay 24 grand. Like when I get the cash price is 14, I've got like 8 grand. I just can't swing the 14. And I'm looking at it going, well, I paid under 5,000 or maybe $5,000 or $6,000 for this property. You're going to give me 8 grand. Take all my capital, give me all my capital, plus put a couple thousand in my pocket. And now I'm going to have a nice terms deal. I'll let them buy the price down. So there's your middle offer.
Yeah.
And so maybe I end up, you're going to go 8,000 down instead of the 2,000. I'll play with that all day long. So, maybe I'll end up selling the property at 16.5. I'm still, more than tripling my money. Just on the front end, and then I really collect interest over the term. So, and by the way, people, so I see so many people not charging interest because they don't want to send out the tax form at the end of the year. I've got an automated system. My accountant does it. I charge 10 to 12% interest. So don't leave that money on the table. People will pay it. I mean, worst case, you negotiate down to 7 or 8.
I'm exactly the same way. I charge 12% interest. Actually, for some reason, I've always charged 12.5% interest. Right. So I charge 12.5% interest. And I mean, sending a 1099 at the end of the year is easy. But one of the reasons I do that is because in the sales process, it allows me to give something away, a value to the other side that costs me nothing.
Exactly.
So I always say, and what you'll find is if you do business with me, there's no prepayment penalty. So if you have a windfall, you come into some money, you want to pay this property early, whatever the payoff is on that date, that's what you pay. I write the deed to you. There's no extra fee. You can forego all the future interest, save yourself a ton of money. And now if I had 0% interest, there'd be no financial incentive for them to do that.
Yeah, nope.
They have a financial incentive, if they can, to pay it off early. Very rarely does anybody pay it off early. However, in the sales process, it's just another piece of value that I offer them by doing business with me. One other thing that you just sparked, I just like the psychology of things. There was an experiment done. This is in behavioral. It's called behavioral economics. So it's not like standard economics, which they talk about the rational man, which doesn't exist, by the way. Behavioral economics is all based on experiments. And so what they did is they took waiters and waitresses at restaurants, and they served the dinner as they normally would. And in one group, they just put the bill on the table. And another group, they put the bill on the table with a couple of mints and said, "Thanks, you've been great." And then I'm going to tell you about the third group in just a second. So which group do you think got the better tip of those two?
First one.
No, actually, the second group got a little bit better. A couple of mints. They're giving me something for free. They said something nice about me. They get a marginally better tip on average. The third group, and this is fascinating. What they did is they put the check on the table and stepped off to walk away. And then they just took the step back and they reached in their pocket and they put some mints on the table. And they said, "I just want to say thanks. You guys have been fantastic." Away. Their tip, I don't remember the exact percentage higher on average the tip was, but it was substantial because they made a point of doing something differentiated and making sure the table knew it on a very personal level. And it massively increased their tips. And what you just described is very much like that. Is like, you have the two offers. Now you could give them the three offers in the ad, right? You could put all that up front, but it's much more effective if you do it in the negotiation, because now they're feeling like, one, you're a really nice guy. You're a really reasonable guy. I can work with this guy. It builds trust. It builds relationship. But also, everybody wants to walk away from a negotiation feeling like a winner. And you basically give them an opportunity to say, "Hey, I won in that negotiation." But the truth of the matter was, in a way, in your formulating of the options before you even offered the property to the marketplace, that was always in your head as an option. I know that because I know you. And it's just hugely powerful. And I would just, Dave has always been sort of, to me, the master of clever deal making. And we always like to have that one aha moment in a podcast. And I think this is it. It's really fantastic. Okay. I think we probably beaten that one. So we should.
All right. Well, we've got a few more topics or bullet points in this topic to talk about. But before we do that, I want to let our sponsor, Land.MBA, say a few words.
Hey folks, my name is David Van Steenkist, and I've been a real estate investor for over 10 years. I've used lots of different tools, but none of them has done for my business what Land.MBA does. Land.MBA covers every step in the land investing process, from ordering mailing lists to marketing, sales, and closing the deal. What I really like, though, is it anticipates my needs. When I think, I wish I had a quick and easy way to evaluate return on investment on a potential property, look no further, Land.MBA does it. If I want to edit a deed after Land.MBA creates it, it can do that too. Most systems just stick you with a PDF that's uneditable, and you got to go back into the system and edit the fields and do whatever you need to do, and it's a real pain in the rear end. Land.MBA simplifies it. If I want to send 1 or 5 or even 40 neighbor letters at the click of a button, bam, Land.MBA does it. But even with all that inherent capability, you get access to Land.MBA community, you get weekly mastermind calls, and you get the best mailing rates in the business with no volume commitment, which is freaking awesome. If I just want to pop one contract to somebody, I don't have to pay $1.50. I still pay the bargain basement rate. And on top of that, customer service is stellar. quick, and they just do a great job. I've been very, very happy, very pleased with it. And look, I've been running my business on Land Speed for over 2 years. So take it from me. If you're serious about your land business, then check out Land Speed at facebook.com/landbizautomation. That's Land BIZ Automation. And if you want $100 off, tell them you heard it from me, David Van Steenkist, on the Land.MBA podcast.
All right. So, Howard, what are some of the other goods with regards to seller financing?
Well, there are some that don't require a whole lot of conversation, but obviously it generates a regular cash flow versus having to actually do work in order to get money every month, and that's nice, which builds some sense of security. You already kind of talked about flexibility and the fact that because you know you've got money coming in every month, it gives you breathing space to make better business decisions and to go try different things like apartment buildings and other opportunities. But one of the things I really love about it is it creates incremental income. So I would say I'm on my third career. My first career was in the military. Second career, I was in corporate America. And when I was in corporate America for the first 15 years, I was in telecom. And very early on, I just realized the value of what I used to call the AT&T model, because the AT&T model is a subscription service. So I buy, back then it was long distance service, right? So I would buy, my AT&T service for all my long distance calling. They only have to sell it to me once, and I pay them every single month pretty much until, I would say, almost for the rest of my life, because if you ever try to cancel a contract with AT&T, it's almost impossible. I've spent 4 hours on a call center to make it actually happen. But the bottom line is, it's this idea of selling once, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. And the beautiful thing about subscription services is that so long as your sales, not necessarily the volume of sales, but the dollar value, the monthly recurring value of your sales exceeds the monthly recurring value of your churn, which would be some combination of defaults or people paying off their loans. So long as your sales is higher than your churn, then your monthly income grows every month.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't happen in the corporate world. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much you contribute value to your company. Your salary is your salary. You get the same amount because you're basically trading time for money. But when you're doing terms deals, so long as your sales value grows faster than the churn, then your monthly income grows every single month. And I think that is the single greatest value of owner financing.
Yeah, I love looking at my phone and seeing my bank feed, or the alert comes up. Oh, new deposit. Oh, new deposit. Oh, new deposit.
I set up a special little cling ringtone thing on my phone, so I always know. Oh, that one means that's money. I like that.
Nice. What sound do you have for money going out?
Wah wah wah.
Yeah, exactly. You need to suck you like a flushing toilet. Anyway, cool. Well, right on. The incremental income. The other great thing is, because you're charging a higher price, it creates a ton of equity in your business. So it creates that larger equity, and you can use that if you ever want to position your business for valuation, for selling it, or for getting loans and things like that.
I think the other cool thing, and I think I would not underestimate that one. I mean, being able to get loans, or if you ever want to sell your business, how do you value it? Huge. I mean, I think most of us are running this business because we enjoy it, and it just basically creates. If you do a lot of seller financing, it turns your business basically into an ATM machine, which is a wonderful thing. But you may someday say, you know what, I want to retire. I want to sell the business, and it would be nice to be able to have a basket of notes that you can value, and then create a valuation for your business to sell it. And I think that's really, really terrific. But the other cool thing is that when you have these notes, you basically have a very established, documented track record of return, which is really useful whether you want to get debt financing or you want to get deal financing. And in the end, if you really want to scale your business, we should be thinking like everybody else in the world that makes lots and lots of money, which is using other people's money to finance the deals. So you're not using your own. Yeah, you cut your percentage of the profit down, but it basically means you never have to turn away. And so if you can operationally grow your business, you can grow it to almost any size because money or capital is no longer a limiting factor. And it's a lot easier to get that capital if you've got a track record. And that's what these notes provide, is a track record.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we already talked about time freedom. Let's get into the bad a little bit. What do you view as some of the negative parts? Because it's not all rainbows and unicorns. What do you think, Howard?
We change from the good to bad. I have to do it again. All right, the bad. Well, I mean, obviously, people default, and and I guess my question to you, Dave, is: are defaults good or bad?
Well, they're not that bad because the thing is sometimes you can make from that one asset, you can make a lot more money over time because you get your down payment, people pay on it for a year or two. I mean, what I've seen and what I've heard, typically people either just flame out immediately, and then usually you're keeping their doc fee, and sometimes you might give their down payment back. Depends on you and depends on the situation. That's rare. More than likely, the only defaults I've ever had personally. No, I did have one person just decide they wanted out, and so I was actually a nice guy with that person. I gave them all their money back and resold it. But every other one has been, and I have about, I think, 12% default rate on average. It's defaulted after they've paid, after I've definitely have had my investment back. So a year or two, whatnot. So I've had my investment out of the property, and then look, the marketing's already done. Maybe you go in and adjust the price, because maybe it's paid off. You've got your capital back, so you can reduce the down payment if you need to make it easier for people to buy. Although I don't like to have too low of a down payment, because to me that's a little bit of a qualifier for if they're going to keep making payments. If they can't come up with a down payment that is relative to the price of the property they're buying, then they shouldn't be getting seller financing. So you can view that as bad, but I've had a couple properties I've sold 3 times. So in the long run, and look, the systems are all in place. It defaults. I have a system to where my VA handles it almost soup to nuts. If somebody's late, somebody's in default, she makes sure that she's communicating with them, sending them the letters, and then when they default, she does everything. She remarkets it, and we just go and resell it.
It's already created. You just have to switch it from sold to for sale.
Yeah, and then just start doing your active posts on Facebook and your land sites, and that's it. But it just goes back into your system. So hassle schmassle, it's not that big of a deal.
And then then there's the accounting side of it. So what ends up being it just basically goes back into inventory, and it's now the property's an asset on your books, and now your basis is zero because the property's paid off.
Exactly. Well, the asset just goes from land back to a note.
Right. Yeah.
Or from a note to land, then back to a note. Yeah.
but when you look at the profitability on the second note, your basis is now back either zero or whatever your purchase price.
So now your ROI on that second note is infinite.
Exactly. Yeah, I was talking about my first big home run because it was so spectacular. But yeah, I sold this property, and person bought it, and they paid the down payment and the doc fee, and they said they didn't ask. All they did is they sent me a note and said, "Look, I can't do this. Can you just let me out of this contract?" And I just said, "Sure, no problem. I'll just rip it up." So they ripped it up, and they didn't ask for their money back. And then I sold it again. The exact same thing happened. Like, oh, this is ridiculous. I sold it the third time, and it stuck. But by that time, the property was paid off, and I was getting like $500 a month for 10 years.
I know. I had one deal that I resold in 4 hours.
Yeah, I love that.
It was like it sold, and I went through my buyers list, and I shot an email out to everybody who had inquired on that property. And one guy I remember, I had notes in my CRM that said this guy missed buying this because it was an online checkout. It was a pretty inexpensive property, and I think he had called me because he just missed it. So I had a note in the CRM that said, if you get a similar property, call this dude or email this guy because he's interested in that area. So I just picked up the phone and I called him. I said, "Hey, the guy who bought that property that you missed out on a year ago, we just foreclosed on it. Do you want it?" Yep. Gave me his credit card right then and there.
Yeah.
So
what else is in the bad here?
Well, it does require management. You need some systems and tools to manage it. And there's very good systems out there. I mean, you can do it on a spreadsheet if you want to do that. For me, that's a pain in the rear end. I don't want to do that. That just creates too much of a job. But there are some other systems out there that have been around a while and are very, very good. Let's see. That's really not a big deal.
I'd like to jump in on, Dave, and talk about is when you're marketing a property and you're selling it on terms, figuring out your pricing to the market on terms is very different than doing it for cash. Cash is pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. I would go do a complete market analysis. I use Price Boss to do that. It gives me a very, very solid understanding of what, and the way I do it is the median market value for that property based upon comps. And median means that of all the comps that I have, it's not the average. It means that half of the comps are below it, half of the comps are above it. It's the comp that's right in the middle. And I typically try to price my properties at the 80-90% of median. So it's a little bit below that so that it looks like one of the best deals on the market, because my goal is to move quick, to sell quickly and reinvest, as opposed to get top dollar for every property. But when you sell on terms, it's more complicated because there are more variables. So there's the purchase price. Dave doubles his over the cash price. So that's one thing. Then you've got the interest rate. Then you've got the number of months. And all of that will then lead to a number which we call principal plus interest, which is anybody who owns a house, it's the principal plus interest. And then you've got the note fee, you've got, the amortized
property taxes.
And then all of that leads to the total monthly payment. And the thing about the land business is that unless you're dealing with the more expensive properties, the buying process and the mentality of buyers, it's more like buying a car than it is like buying property. And so if anybody has gone to a dealership, we all have been on the receiving end of this, where the first question they ask you is, so what do you want as your monthly payment? Oh, wait, look at cars. Yeah, what do you want as your monthly payment? Yep. And of course, they're going to try to filter you towards the most expensive car in the lot that they think you can afford, because they can always work the numbers around your monthly payment. They'll just
extend the term
or whatever it is. Yeah. The same thing here. So people want a piece of land and they're thinking, okay, I can afford this monthly payment. There are a lot of ways to get to that monthly payment by tweaking the price, tweaking the interest rate, and tweaking the number of months. And so before you even put the property up for market, you want to kind of figure out what all these terms are going to be. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the intersection of pricing that will really resonate with the marketplace on the one side and meet your business requirements on the other. And that's why, I'm just going to apologize, but a little plug for Land.MBA. So when you get to this point in Land.MBA, there's a whole calculator to do this. And so you kind of go in and put these numbers in, and as you put the numbers in, it tells you, okay, this is your margin, this is your return on investment, this is the number of months to break even, and so you can play with the numbers until you find that balance between what resonates in the marketplace and what's going to meet your business requirements. So a little bit more complicated than trying to do this in just a cash deal. All right. Let's see. My producer is telling me that we've got a limited amount of time left. So let's move on. Let's move on to the ugly, Dave.
Yeah.
And I say let's move on to the ugly, Dave. And there's just.
Well, in that case, I'll talk. The ugly Dave is here. So, okay, we got bad buyers, we got squatters, we got, people can misuse the property, violating zoning laws and code enforcement, things like that. So I've had, not too many bad buyers. I mean, usually bad buyers is someone who doesn't pay and they default, or one guy who, he keep calling me, I promise I'm going to pay, and he never pays. And, it's just, suckers you into extending them out a little longer. But now squatters, I haven't heard a lot of nightmares about squatters, but certainly that can happen. I had one guy squat. He moved an old jalopy motorhome onto the property, and I don't even think it ran to begin with. He dug a hole, not really a hole, but he dug out a trench that he could drive the motorhome into. So that was essentially his winterization. It was about 3 feet deep, came up to just above the wheels. And then he built all these, plywood extensions and everything onto it. And he was obviously living out there with a septic and everything. So I would keep getting code enforcement. Anyway, but he'd been paying me for 2 or 3 years, and I was well heeled on the property. The guy actually threatened me. He, when I tried to take the property back, and he got a little violent, or threatened violence, and I did call the sheriff and whatnot, and it was just a big headache. I just decided to walk away from it. So I think I paid $1,200 or $1,500 for the property, and he'd paid me like $3,000. And so, even though it was a $10,000 note, sometimes it's just a cost of doing business. And so I just decided to walk from that one. But turnabout is fair play. And I sold another property to a guy not too far from that one. The guy happened to be in a biker gang, and he was pretty badass dude, really nice puppy dog, really. But he's like, I told him the story. He's like, dude, I'll go get him off that property for you. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll deed you that property and you can do what you want. So I just freaking signed the deed for the property I just sold him. And then I went ahead and went home and created the deed and ran back out to the restaurant I was meeting him out to sign, and gave him that deed. And I'm like, dude, go have at it. So
awesome. One of the things you quickly mentioned, and I want to just cover it, and then I think we should need to bring this to a close, and that's squatters. So somebody will go on your property, they'll stop paying, but they basically are there. And so squatters laws in the state or in the county are really important, because if you can't get them off, if the law or the execution of the law favors the person who's on the property versus the owner, that's a problem. I do have a Land.MBA customer who faced this very problem, and they went to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, hey, look, nothing I can do. Go get the courts involved. And then, when the courts tell me to do something, I will. So rather than the sheriff enforcing the contract, they've said, I need to hear from the courts first, which now requires money and time before you can do it. So there are counties where you really want to, in your county research, you want to understand that, because if the county favors the person on the property versus the owner of the property, you don't want to be doing terms deals in that county. You want to be doing cash deals in that county. All right, Dave, thank you. I think this was really informative. There's some really good ahas in here. So hopefully everybody got something great out of this. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time on the Land.MBA podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.